So I'm assuming you like heard about the Ava Tyson stuff, right?
I have indeed heard about it, yeah.
So I bet you might be one of the only people I can talk about this because I think you're the only people in my personal life that I know that knows anything about Discord or online forums.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think everyone's kind of given the same take, at least from like the big creators, right? Like, shouldn't be talking sexual with minors. It's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's generally not appropriate to be in private conversations having this with them. So we all are in agreement on that. And I think that's where most people kind of start and end. And then some people kind of go a little bit further and they're like, Mr. Beast knew and he's a piece of shit. And then some people are like, this trans person obviously became trans because they want to prey on children. So there's like those extremes. But most of the times people see all this shit and they're like, it's bad what she did, right?
Sure.
Okay. Now, just going beyond that, I don't know if you're going to agree with this, but I feel like what she said and the things that she was doing is, since I discovered Discord 4 or 5 years ago, feels like the most normalized weird shit that I know about online forums. I feel like every time I've entered a Discord or I've seen a Discord flourish, conversations in a lot of chats will just get weirdly sexual. There will be underage people there, some knowing, some not knowing. So I want to know if you agree with that assessment.
Oh, I thought you were coming here to, I thought we were going to burn our bridge again today.
No, I'll do that on a different day over something that matters to me.
My take is that you probably shouldn't be talking to minor section online. It's probably not a good idea or making those jokes. But the reality is that for the last like 15, 20 years on the internet, basically everybody online does shit like this. It's like funny when it happens. But when you start divorcing things from context, you start laying out like a whole bunch of them in like a future date, things can look way, way, way more insidious than they actually are.
Wait, when you say people always do stuff like this, what are you referring to? I just want you to be clear.
Like, I'm pretty confident. If anybody wants to try it, because, you know, fuck it, I love being a pedophile. If you want to try it, I'm pretty sure if you were to go back, do you know Mr. Mooten? Do you ever know him from my stream?
That's the guy who did D&D with you. And he's
yeah,
right?
I'm pretty sure I started gaming with him. I think when he was 16, maybe 15, maybe 17, but I think when he was 16, I guarantee that everybody in our DayZ group and Rush group probably made like groomer pedophile jokes towards him. 1,000,000,000%. I'm sure I did. I must have. But like you're in a group, you say shit and you know it's like edgy, but ideally you know that it's not true as well, right? Like that's kind of the joke. Like if you were to go back and take like 10 of those jokes and lay them out, and then you would be like, why would you ever say this? It would look fucking horrible. It reminds me of when I got a call from Slate. I think it was either Slate or The Atlantic. Somebody was working on an article and they were like, hey, so can you talk about like these death threats that you made online? It's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, you said a lot of like really crazy things while playing games. And I was like, well, yeah, we all kind of joked around like that. And this lady starts reading me like League of Legends logs. And she's like, okay, well in here, like you told this guy that he needs to buy razors from your sponsor and he needs to slit his wrist. And you said, when you said down the highway, not across the street, what did you mean by that? And I'm like, okay, Jesus Christ. Yeah, when you read them out like that, I sound fucking insane. Okay, but you got to understand it's a League of Legends lobby. Okay, yeah. So not to excuse anybody, but I'm just saying like people like overhype the fuck out of it in my opinion, but.
Okay, so I think there's an operative word here that's kind of important. When you say everyone, you'd agree with me that people obviously interact with the internet very differently, even though they might all be on the same platforms. They don't all use it in the same way, right?
Yeah, when I say everyone, I'll be more particular. Back in the day, this was like normalized for internet behavior. Now, there were far fewer people on the internet back then, and it wasn't like as big as it is now with as many different types of communities. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the main issue is that this kind of stuff is, one, normal in these spaces, just like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Two, both adults and underage people engage in it. Like you can make whatever rules you want in a Discord or in a chat room or in a forum. When I was 14, was part of a bunch of online forums. Mm-hmm. Not that they were doing stuff with each other necessarily sexually towards each other, but it was just normal to be in adult spaces where people were talking about adult topics. And sometimes people don't mind making those jokes knowing that there's a bunch of underage people in there. And that was probably the weirdest revelation to me because before Discord, I'd never been like actual chat rooms where people talk. It was forums, so you made posts.
Yeah.
People would reply to your posts. It's a different vibe. Once I joined Discord during the pandemic, like I would routinely see these people talking to kids, and like they would find out that people were 16, and they would keep on making these kinds of jokes. So I'm asking you, what do you think it is about them that A, they first feel the need to get online and be hypersexual all the time, even if they're adults or whatever, and B, why do you think they don't care when they find out the person is underage? Because I don't want to believe I don't believe all these people are like pedos or whatever. That's not a reasonable assumption. But I also will say that there definitely have been people who have been in these spaces and have tried to prey on young people. So with that in mind,
so there's like this is where I would say I would have to see the comments. Personally, I would say that if you're in a room, I think that when people try to make like let me think of this. Okay. I'm going to qualify a lot. I'm going to say I'm not actually part of a lot of Discord stuff. Discord communities, in my opinion, are more weird than communities in the past. So I can't speak to all the Discord stuff. I think that there are groups of people, especially when it comes to men, especially when it comes to young men, where there are a lot of like hypersexualized gay jokes that just happen all the time. I'm doing all boys high school, okay? This type of shit was just like ubiquitous. And then that carried over. I wouldn't say carry over. That was true in online areas as well. However, I think there's a big difference between people making jokes like that versus people that are half sincerely, half jokingly like probing sexual conversations like ever. But I think I would have to see the conversation to have a strong opinion about it. Like, let's say that there were adults and minors sharing a Discord room, and like some kid steps in, and you know he's like, oh, blah, blah, whatever, you know, and then like some guy was like, oh, hey, you know, oh, what's up? Like I fucked your mom today or something, you know, some shit like that. Like it's a sexual joke, it's like whatever. But let's say there's like a minor in the room, so he's like, oh yeah, like don't you have a girlfriend now? Like are you guys fucking yet? Like do you guys like go down on each other? They're talking like a 15-year-old kid. I'd be like that's really fucking weird and insanely inappropriate. Like there's not a joke there. And even if you're making jokes about it, like the content of what you're talking about, you're like probing this like child's sexual life is really fucking strange, assuming the other person is an adult.
Okay,
So
so
yeah,
what about
yeah.
the middle
Mhm.
ground? Rather than probing the underage person,
Mhm.
this is something I see a lot. They'll just talk very sexually to each other. They're like, "Oh, can we come over there and suck on your toes?" They'll say like weird shit, just super casually to each other, and they'll be an underage person. I feel like that is distinctly different than trying to probe into it, but I still feel like it's incredibly inappropriate.
Yeah, in my
What do you
in
think of that
my
rank?
I think that all the fuck, I might be aging out here. I think that all the rooms like that, I think are just fucking weird. When I understand like the heavy sexualized, I even say sexualized, like joking that can happen sometimes in groups, but when people are just like blatantly talking about like sex and stuff like that constantly in Discord rooms, people like that always come off to me as like either losers or degenerates, like almost every time. They're always like they have like 52 different like identifiers in their profile. They're furry. They talk about their sex like way too much. It's like literally their entire fucking identity. They're probably posting collections of like toys or BDSM out. Like that shit is just real. Like it's their whole identity. I think
Yeah.
that's really fucking weird. Yeah.
Um,
But I would think that's weird even if there weren't minors in there. I think all those people are kind of fucking weird when they make their whole identity about that. But then yeah, it gets
yeah.
even more weird when there are minors in there. Or not weird,
I
I should say
personally think
inappropriate.
it's a bit odd when in person or in real life you're like not this way at all. Then you get online and you're hypersexual 24/7. To me, that incongruence always strikes me as a bit weird and makes me uncomfortable. And as someone who's probably a little bit more sexual than a lot of these people in real life, I just feel like why do you get online and feel the need to talk in this way that you would never? You're not sucking on nobody's toes. Stop acting like you're this freaky person, but you get
Mhm.
online, you do this. I just to me, there's like something very bizarre about it. And even though I did enjoy some Discord spaces, that was one part of it that I never really understood and why I picked up on. And to me, it feels like what you said, they're probably like a bit loserish in real life if they feel the need to talk like this online. But that is distinctly different than necessarily pedophilic intentions. But it doesn't change the fact that anyone on the outside looking in, it's going to be impossible for them to tell the difference. You know,
Yeah.
like, and this is something I had to kind of contend with because, like I said before, everybody uses the internet in different ways, but we're all interacting with some of the same stuff. Meaning, when Ava's message comes up, the fucking Reddit lurker mod will see it and be like, "Oh, banter," and then everyone else will look at it like, "No, there's an inappropriate conversation to have with a minor," and they're both technically right, but I would still probably side with the normie on this because this should be something that's even allowed online, even if the intentions are bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think it also depends too when we say things like when we say inappropriate. Like for instance, is it appropriate for like a minor to like say slurs? Like probably not. It's probably not appropriate. But when people say inappropriate when it comes to stuff like this, in their mind, inappropriate is immediately linked to like child rapist. So like there are definitely jokes and stuff that are inappropriate. People probably shouldn't be doing. But then I think sometimes people take the moral condemnation and they go way 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 too far. Where it's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't be joking like this. It's probably not okay. But it doesn't mean the person's like a child groomer or a rapist or something as well. You know? Yeah.
Okay, let me see. I think the issue is we may not know whether or not the person is a child rapist or a groomer, but obviously the people feel like this kind of thing is potentially a precursor. So why even allow it to fester?
Which is fine. Yeah. But it still doesn't make the person a yeah, it still doesn't make them like a groomer or a child rapist. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a good argument that when you normalize that type of conduct, because the really difficult part is when the conduct becomes normalized, now it's impossible to find the people or to see the people more clearly that are behaving inappropriately, right? Because it's all been normalized. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think like if this is normalized, it's only normalized in like very niche online spaces. That's why for everyone else who sees this, they just have a visceral reaction. I don't believe everyone who sees it is having a dishonest reaction. I'm pretty confident if I show this to any of my friends who've never interacted with Discord or online spaces ever, they'd be like, "Yo, this person's probably a rapist." And I could understand they've never seen it. I was actually really jarred when I first saw some of it, but I had also been a little bit stunted because of like my times on forums, so it was manageable. But anybody else who sees it, they're going to see those chat logs. They're going to think the worst. And are they unreasonable for thinking that?
Are they unreasonable? Maybe not. I guess probably not. I mean, if you see collection, like I said, like any types of chat logs, I don't think it's unreasonable to come to a quick feeling about it. Yeah, especially for online shit. Yeah.
Do you guys ever have those issues in your Discord spaces?
Yeah, I think I banned all the people sexting or hooking up with each other, or whatever, because it just gets insanely fucking degenerate like way too quickly, and then people start accusing everybody of rape and all sorts of autistic shit. I think we had this issue. What was it? Was this like 7 or 8 or 9 years ago? And I think we ended up banning it in all of our Discord servers. Like, there's no more public sexual bullshit because you guys just get too weird with it. You're fucking autistic and retarded, and most of you are literally autistic, and you can't handle any of this. So go do it in other servers and rape each other there because it's not gonna happen in my shit because I don't want to moderate it. So I'm pretty sure we banned all of that. I think.
Damn, I like that. We didn't even have the discussion. We both came to the same conclusion. I abandoned my Discord.
Yeah, it's retarded because nobody can handle any of it, and then it just gets way too fucking weird and stupid. And it's also weird to like step into rooms and
Yes.
yeah, and not to be weird or not to be a wokey. It's also like really off-putting to women that like you step into a room and there's like a bunch of weird people like talking about like fucking and sex and porn and like, oh my god, like today I did this with my cock and like, oh my ooh, and it's like just fucking please stop, go somewhere else and do this. I don't need to see this like all the time. Yeah, that's why I ban porn in my DGG chat. It's just weird to see people like posting porn and like talking. It's like why? Just go do this somewhere else.
We definitely agree. Did you have any other thoughts on the Ava Kris Tyson coverage? I feel like, yeah, I want to ask you that first.
I feel like, I mean, it's like the dream scenario, I think, for conservatives, where conservatives are just trying to find like a trans groomer person, and now they finally got like kind of a little bit of their story. Well, I'm still not fully convinced that Ava was involved in any like crazy grooming shit. It just seems like they joked inappropriately. And I'll say that when they were a male and identified as a man, nobody seemed to give a fuck. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, I don't have very strong opinions about it. It seemed like inappropriate stuff, but it didn't seem like anything beyond the pale or anything.
Yeah, I think Mr. Beast, letting her go, and then that was definitely the right choice. I will say, like the whole divorce arc that everyone lost their minds over. Did you see that thing unfold?
What is the divorce arc?
Where she became trans and divorced her ex-wife.
I didn't follow any of that. No, I know that a lot of people have really 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 strong opinions about it, but
Yeah. Okay. I think that pretty much covers most of it then. I don't think that makes sense.
I do think that there is I don't know if we've talked about this before, but I mentioned on stream, there's a huge issue with people becoming more online today, in that in the past it was a pretty accurate heuristic that anytime you had like a 25-year-old talking to like a 16-year-old, something very 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 wrong was happening because our spaces in real life were fairly segregated, except for maybe your job. For like a 25-year-old go talk to a 15-year-old, there's a lot of things that 25-year-old has to do that he probably shouldn't be doing. He's either going to high schools or he's going to areas that he shouldn't be in, and he's associating with really young people. But now on the internet, everybody's kind of like thrown into the same space, and those heuristics don't work as much anymore to figure out like who's weird and like intentionally being weird versus who's not. And I think we have a very poor understanding or concept of like consent or like what's appropriate or inappropriate or like what is grooming or not grooming. And so now like we try to use the old heuristics and we're trying to like apply them broadly to online spaces, and it doesn't really work. And I think people need to have a bit more of a sophisticated understanding of different concepts related to like humor or sexuality. But
Yeah, I think also involving anonymity, it's kind of weird because I'll be in online spaces, you'll talk to people on a regular basis, you come to find out one of the users are underage, like, Speed 77, and just like this avatar of like Sonic or something. You're like, oh, this person's 17, okay, that's weird. They've always talked like an adult, and then another person comes on and says they're 26, so you don't have any perception to really attach to the person who's saying all these weird things. Whereas in real life, obviously, if you're talking to an underage person, it's generally pretty clear to you for the most part, so the visceral reaction is there. Whereas online, it's something that you kind of have to code backwards. You have the interactions, you're talking, then you have to go backwards and then reassess everything and try to superpose an image of some 16, 17-year-old on this random user. But it doesn't feel real. All of it's weird. Which is why I kind of have to just make hard lines. Like anyone under age 18 gets banned. Anyone talking sexually gets banned because like you just don't know who's involved. But it doesn't, at the same time, it doesn't feel as intense, even if we were expected to have an intense reaction to underage stuff or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, I 1,000,000,000% agree, right? Like if you meet an 18-year-old or a 17-year-old or a 16-year-old in real life, like it's very, very, very obvious very quickly. But online, it's easy to just kind of like everybody just seems kind of the same. I don't know if you've ever had this experience. One of the funniest experiences to me is I'll be chatting with a girl who's 12 years. No, I'm just kidding. I'll be chatting with somebody who's like British for like 2 months on Discord, and then maybe like finally we have a conversation, and hearing them speak and hearing the British accent, like Jesus, like every time you type, I read it in American. Like the fact that you have such a heavy accent is actually mind fucking me really hard right now. I feel like when it comes to just like text conversations, you're just reading stuff. It's like it's very easy to just see everything in a particular way. That's a lot different than if you were seeing or interacting with the person in real life.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of the online problems would be solved if anonymity was removed?
I'm not a good person. We're not good people to talk to about that. Maybe you are. I'm because I'm like an online like little e-celeb or whatever. I hate anonymity. Fuck all of that anonymity bullshit. I think it should all go away. But I mean, obviously that would super benefit me and be super detrimental to my haters.
Wouldn't it also be good for public discourse?
Yeah, I think I legitimately think that the United States government should create a sign-on server where you can OAuth into apps, and like apps can decide if, do you have like a U.S. Social Security verified whatever login, and then that's how they verify your identity. Like boom. I think that should be the case. I think there should be a social media platform that offers that. I want to see who I'm talking to. I want to make sure that I'm talking actually to Julia and not Natasha, or I'm talking to like David and not Dimitri. And yeah, I fully am 1,000,000,000% on board with that. I would support it 100%. Yeah, but I don't think the average internet user would be okay with that.
Yeah, I remember learning about this, but in South Korea, in order to have like a gaming account, you have to use your actual ID. So all your gaming stuff is linked, and if you have bad behavior online, it's possible to get permabanned off of specific games, and you won't be able to get another account because of that. Now, there is some workaround, but it's incredibly difficult. And even just that barrier to entry kind of makes people act a little bit differently. So I could see ways in which it's very positive for a lot of realms. On the other hand, with certain lines of employment, maybe you're persecuted for things that you're saying online that probably shouldn't be persecuted for. And I guess in those kind of circumstances, anonymity would be something that people want. But yeah, actually, you know what? Why don't you make a case against?
Well, yeah, I mean, you just did it. Like the case against it, that was going to be incredible. It would be theoretically, if it wasn't implemented well, it'd be incredibly easy to track your online stuff. People could be doxing you and holding you accountable for your stuff online so much easier. Yeah, that it would be all the standard arguments. Then the counter arguments would obviously be, well, just because you OAuth in with your real information doesn't mean that the social media platform has to reveal your real information. And I mean, you could, I don't know. I think it could be managed, but it'll never happen. So.
Yeah, I just question. Well, I mean, I don't know. I have a hard time because on Facebook it feels like people use their real name, their real photos, and they just say the most wild stuff. So I don't even know if it really helps the public discourse that much.
Yeah,
you would think, but when I go to Facebook, I just don't think that's the case. I think people feel very comfortable saying the most nutty shit online, and they don't care.
Yeah, but at least on Facebook, you generally know the real people at least.
Yeah, that is true. I do think Facebook users are more brave than YouTube chatters and anything else I've seen, because when an ugly ass person is using the real pictures to tell you you're ugly, that's a crazy level of bravery or stupidity that I don't see on any other platform.
For sure, yeah.
All right. That's it for me, boss. I was just saying, I've received hundreds of demands to disavow you, and I always appreciate every time I get them.
Well, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, peace, boss.
Have fun, people. Does Destiny not consider the risk of identity theft? Has he never heard of a data breach? Hey, have you ever heard of OAuth? Dipshit? What are you talking about? Fuck off. Okay. He says, like, OAuth is impenetrable. If my website got hacked, can you walk me through how you would get information from Google's database about you? If somebody OAuthed into my website using Google, using like the Google OAuth, walk me through that. I'm waiting. They may have just meant a breach of the government-ran authentication provider. Oh, and then what would happen? Like our social securities would get leaked? Or our credit card information? Or you mean like what's already happened in 50 trillion different data breaches? What do you mean? All of this information has been held by other companies that have been hacked. It's not like the government is holding like unique information that you don't share with anybody else ever.